Hey gang, it's Shannon, and today what we're going to do is give you a quick tutorial on how to put this onto this. And this is a Chevy 350. This is a 4-bolt main block, which means on the main bearing caps, the 3 center ones, there are 4 bolts instead of just 2. Makes it a little stronger, a little more heavy duty, and we're going to dress this thing up a bit. Alright, first thing we want to do is we want to clean off these mating surfaces. That's not a run, that's just extra powder coating that came out of the can. We're going to clean all these mating surfaces off where the gaskets go. And so I'm going to use Old Faithful, the DA grinder with Scotch-Brite pad. Please don't send me any letters saying how bad Scotch-Brite is and there's 40 microns of aluminum oxide in it. It's going to destroy your engine, blah, 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 blah. Okay? Trust me, there's a lot more dirt and garbage in the gas that you put in your car from the gas station than a couple of microns of aluminum oxide in here. Not to mention the fact that antifreeze, the reason you change your antifreeze every year is because after a year antifreeze becomes acidic and it'll eat all your aluminum and the intake and anything else aluminum in your car. Okay, so again I'm doing this one-handed while I'm filming with the iPhone, and you just want to get the flat surfaces here. Try not to get, you know, all your other nice shiny paint. And no, this little Scotch-Brite pad is not going to warp a cast iron block or mess it up. Of course, if you do like the edges here, or maybe the actual edge here, you don't want to do that. Yes, that will grind it down, but just a Scotch-Brite pad like this is not going to hurt cast iron. Aluminum, yeah, you're going to have problems with aluminum, so I wouldn't use these on surfaces like aluminum like this. I do use it on the intake manifold gasket. I'll show you that later. Alright, so when we're done, you can see we've got all our paint off of our mating surface here, nice and clean. Speaking of clean, you want to make sure you keep, you know, all your intake, exhaust holes, spark plug holes. Try to keep everything covered up as best as you can. And then what I do is, you know, just blow everything off. And we'll move on to the next part. Alright, one quick side point is we want to keep the engine as clean as possible on the interior. We've got tape over our intake ports, we've got, you know, rags in our oil galley, and, you know, we want to cover up those spark plug holes and exhaust ports if possible. You just want to keep the inner workings of this thing as clean as possible. Okay, here's the biggest problem and main point of this video. When you're installing these chrome plated timing covers or oil pans or valve covers, whatever, the biggest problem is the actual chrome plating itself. Right here on these mating surfaces where the gasket goes, even if you're using your, whether it's strip adhesive, your glue, and your spoos, your RTV, you're going to have a hard time with this sealing. It just doesn't want to stick. It's kind of like the Teflon coating on a pan. On these mating surfaces, I like to use a wire wheel instead of the Scotch-Brite pad. It's just easier getting, you know, around the little bumps, the little raised parts where it bites on the gasket. And all you want to do is you just want to scuff it enough to take off the real shiny stuff. Just dull it and just to help you get a little bit better grip on it. Keep in mind, anytime you're using a wire wheel, and the reason why I use the Scotch-Brite pad more often, is that these little bristles are going to fly off of here, and that becomes a problem inside your oiling system and inside other parts, because these bristles can get stuck in there and they're hard to find, and they're a bigger mess than, like I say, 40 microns of aluminum oxide from the Scotch-Brite pad. So, you know, just only use these if you really need to, if you're not anywhere near the engine. Alright, you can use these die grinders and these wire wheels when you're doing this stuff. If you got a bench or table grinder, you can use that as well. Main thing is that whenever you're using these wire brushes, is make sure you wear glasses, because normally I don't, but these things do fly off and they're a pain in the ass, and they can be a real pain in the eyeball if you fly one off into your eyeball. So keep your glasses on when you're using these guys. Alright, as you can see, I switched wire wheels here to this guy so I could get inside of this lip. You want to make sure you get that seal area as well. And when you're using these wire wheels, make sure you wear safety glasses, because they do come off and they will poke you in the eye. Alright, make sure you get down inside of here where the front main seal goes, because you do want to get just the shiny stuff off of there. You don't want to, deform it or gash it or scratch it. You just want to get the shiny off so that the seal will seal better. Okay, you just want a really small bead of red Loctite around your seal before you put it in the timing cover here. Now what we're going to do, because of this lip, I know it's a little bent, but we're going to about that later. Because of this little seal area here that sticks out, you want to shim it with the board. And it can be on a 2x4 or whatever, but basically that helps this thing sit flat. So we can take our seal, put our seal in, and use a 4x so we can get the whole thing flush and flat even. So after we've tapped it down using two hands instead of one hand to hold the iPhone to film with, you just tap it down so that it's flush all the way around like so, and we're almost ready to put this in. Okay, if you remember from my other videos, the rule of thumb is you want to glue the gasket to whatever piece is coming off of the engine. So you want to glue it to the timing cover, because this is going to come off, and the glue side will pull most of this gasket with it when it's time to change it again to somewhere down the road or rebuild it, whatever. And then we're going to use our yellow super weather strip adhesive to glue the gasket onto here. And then once that's glued on, we're going to use our ultra gray Permatex, and we're going to just smear a film of that on the other side so it's sealed both sides. It's not going anywhere, it will not leak. So there's our film of the yellow glue with super weather strip adhesive on there. And we're just going to flip that over and lay it on, and make sure you do it before it dries. Alright, before we bolt this thing on, a quick note here. I found this great company up the street called Fastenal, and what I'm doing is I'm buying these stainless steel bolts by the bag. They come in 50 or 100 of them, and I think one bag was like $7, the other bag was $8, and you can get stainless steel bolts like this for the timing cover itself for like $3 for the kit, which is nice. But if you can find these guys Fastenal online and order some, or find a local store. Buying in bulk like this, especially the stainless stuff, just saves quite a bit as opposed to going to Home Depot or Dixie Line or local hardware store. Just a little tip if you want something a little bit nicer than just a regular bolt and you want to save a couple of bucks. Another thing we want to do before we install this cover is we need to oil this lip on the inside of the seal here. So you just I like to get my oil in bulk. It's a lot cheaper than $6 a quart, and what you just want to do is just lube this up a little bit just to make sure that there's a nice film of oil on there. That'll keep it from ripping. It'll help the balancer go on better, and you shouldn't have to worry about curling anything over. So as you can see, we just need a small film of goo on there. We don't need it loaded up. I know I got kind of messy on that end, but you just want to get a nice even film all the way around before you put it on. A couple more side notes on these timing cover bolts is these holes don't actually go into any oil ports or water ports, so you don't need to put any silicone or spooge or anything on them to seal them up before you put them in. Also, whenever you're starting any bolt, make sure you always back thread it a little bit first, and you'll fit until you feel it click in, and then once you feel it click and you know that the threads are started correctly, then you can start it by hand, and you're not going to cross thread the threads that way or strip the threads out. So back thread it first, and remember, righty tighty, lefty loosey. And make sure you get all of your bolts started first before you tighten any of them up. That way if you need to move this around to get all lined up, you can, and then just tighten it down with a 1/4 inch ratchet. If you want to, you can torque these down to, I think the proper torque spec is 6 foot-pounds. You can hook up a torque wrench and torque it down to 6 foot-pounds, or if you just do hand tight with a 1/4 inch ratchet, you'll be fine. Alright, so we crisscrossed the bolt pattern when we first snugged it up. Then after everything was snugged up, we went through and double checked all of them. If you can't get a ratchet or a socket on there, then use an open end to snug them up. And as you can see, there's hardly any goo sticking out from the gasket or anything. It's nice and clean. And that's how you install a chrome timing cover.